Welcome to the Adventure Studio. Today I want to show you how to create the safari themed balloon setup, including how to layer the structural pieces, creating that balloon garland, and adding in all those little details to give it a professional look. The anchor piece of this design is a 4x8 foot tall boxwood hedge wall. If you'd like to learn how to make one of these, I'll leave a tutorial linked above. The second structural piece I'm using today is this 6 foot tall golden arch frame. I've placed it in front of and just to the left of our boxwood wall so it overlaps a little bit, giving us a layered effect. Now you can see right through this arch and it doesn't have a lot of impact, so I'm going to put the white slip cover over the top, making sure I align all of the seams of that slip cover right along the edge of the arch so you almost can't see them. I then pulled the remaining fabric all the way down to the floor, making sure the entire front surface is nice and taut. With the structural pieces in place, we can now make the balloon garland. Start by inflating an 11-inch and a 17-inch balloon at the same time on an electric balloon inflator, making sure that 17-inch is on the trigger side so you can keep inflating it once the 11-incher is full. Now overlap these balloons and wrap the nozzles around twice before tying them together in a simple knot. This will create a pair. In a similar fashion, inflate two 11-inch balloons anywhere between 6 and 10 inches in diameter. This will give our garland a beautiful organic look. Then, just like we did the other balloons, tie these together in a pair by wrapping the nozzles around twice and tying them in a simple knot. Then take your two pairs and we're going to create a quad out of them by overlapping them so that the nozzles touch right in the center, and then twist one balloon from each of those pairs around each other, locking them into a quad. I'm going to repeat this until I've got 6 quads in each of my colors, with the green and blue having 17-inch balloons included in those quads, while the sand and mocha quads only had 11-inch balloons, as I didn't have any 17-inch balloons in these colors. I'll be tying my garland together using some empty 260 modeling balloons, but you could always use fishing line if you prefer. Now I'm going to take my 260 and pinch it and pull it through my fingers so I remove all the air from the balloon, and then tie a knot in the end so I don't get any little air bubbles as I'm using these to tie my garland together. Then I'm going to tie 2 of them end to end, and this will be the string that I tie my garland together with. So take the end of that 260 and tie it to one of the nozzles of the first quad. You can also pinch the end of that 260 against the nozzles, stretch it tight, and wrap it in a figure-8 pattern a couple times, and that'll hold it as well. Now take your second quad of the same color, lay it right on top of the first, stretching that 260 up through the center of the new quad, and then wrap it in a figure-8 pattern around 2 of the balloons in that new quad so they're nice and snug against each other, always making sure I bring that 260 back to the center of my garland. Now I'm going to add a third quad of the same color and attach it in the exact same way, making sure I align the balloons so one balloon of the current quad is always sitting between 2 balloons of the quad before it. Now I'm going to switch colors and use a color block method for my entire garland. I'm going to create sections of either 2 or 3 quads of the same color right next to each other so you get some really big impacts of each of those colors individually. After you've tied several quads together, you may start to run out of 260 length, and if that's the case, you can just tie another one to the very end and keep adding balloons until you're satisfied with the overall length of the garland. Once you've tied on the last quad to the garland, take the remaining 260 tail and wrap it in a figure-8 pattern around a couple of those balloons several times, and then you can just let the tail go and it'll disappear into the center of the garland. Before we can secure the garland to the backdrop, we need to take some 260 balloons and thread it through the boxwood wall and around the backdrop stand, and then just tie this balloon in a knot, leaving one tail really long, and that's how we'll be able to very easily tie our garland to this backdrop. Now I tie 260s every couple of feet up the right side and across the top of my boxwood wall, giving myself multiple tie points to add in my garland. Place the garland approximately where you'd like it to sit along the top and side of the backdrop, and then you're going to grab those 260 balloons and wrap it in a figure-8 pattern around the closest balloon that's right next to it. Once you've wrapped it a couple times, you can just let the 260 go and it'll disappear into the garland. Then I'm just going to repeat this step with all the little tie points I added to the backdrop, and then I'll go over the entire garland and arrange the balloons so they sit exactly how I'd like them. To add balance to this design, I created a mini garland from one quad of each of my colors, and I'm going to slip this on the bottom left side of the arch. Now just pull 2 balloons from each quad apart from each other and slip it over the side of the arch until the arch edge is touching the nozzle of each of those quads. The tension between the balloons will be more than enough to hold it to the arch. To give the garland more volume and visual impact, I inflated a couple 24-inch balloons and tied a 260 balloon to each of those nozzles. And I'm just going to tie those into the garland in places where I think we need a little bit more oomph. So place the balloon wherever you think you need it, stretch the 260 tight, and wrap it in a figure 8 around a couple of the balloons that are right next to it. Now I know not every balloon color comes in a 24-inch size, so you could always add in more 17-inch balloons, and that would give you a very similar effect. To give our garland more texture and visual interest, I created these mini balloon clusters from 8 5-inch balloons. I'm going to use a hand pump to inflate each of those to 4 pumps each, or approximately 4.5 inches in diameter. Inflate the first one and hold it under one of your fingers with the hand pump in it. Inflate a second one to the exact same size and then tie them into a pair, and then take 2 pairs and create a quad just like we did with our larger balloons. Now take 2 quads of the exact same color and we're going to tie them together into our mini clusters. Take a 260 balloon, cut it in half, and then tie each end of that 260 to one of the nozzles of each of these quads. Another easy way to tie them together is by pinching the end of the 260 against one of the nozzles in that quad, stretching it tight, and then wrapping it in a figure 8 pattern a couple times around the balloons of that quad, and that will secure it as well. I created one of these mini clusters for each color section on my garland. So take a mini cluster of the same color as the section you're working with on your garland, stretch the 260 tight between those little balloons, and slip it behind one of the balloons that's already in the garland. Once the 260 is out of sight, you can then play with the placement of those tiny balloons until you're happy with where they're sitting. You can keep them right next to each other for lots of visual interest in one spot, or you can spread them apart and just have little dots of texture over your garland. I also added some mini clusters to the arch frame so that both of our balloon pieces are visually cohesive. Now it's time to focus in on the little details. These arches are a great place to put custom vinyl lettering if you've got a vinyl cutter, or you can combine store-bought pieces for an excellent look. This is a gold Oh Baby sign as well as a leaf placemat that I got from Hobby Lobby, hot glued them together, and now I'm just going to safety pin them to the fabric of our arch frame, and that'll be enough to hold it in place. Now I echoed this leaf with another leaf placemat right below it, and by repeating this leaf element, we can bring the entire design together into a cohesive unit. So I have these smaller Monstera leaves that I just picked up at Walmart. I'm going to insert these between the balloons of my garland, and the friction between those balloons and the stem of the leaf will hold it in place. Now if it doesn't stay exactly how you want, you could always grab some glue dashes to stick the leaf exactly where you want it. Once all the leaf elements are in place, it's finally time to bring in the focal point of this design. Now I created these large safari animals out of foam board and then spray painted them gold to go along with today's theme. Both the elephant and the giraffe are freestanding because they've got these support flaps on the back. Now I've just taped these in place so I can fold them up for easy transportation and then fold them out to make our animals stand elegantly anywhere I want them in this display. If you'd like to incorporate some safari animals into your next party, there's a set of templates for these animals linked in the description box below. That includes this 50-inch tall giraffe that freestands, as well as this adorable monkey that I'm just going to tie him directly to the backdrop so it looks like he's swinging from the balloon garland. Now you can create each of these wild elements for your own party or special event. If you enjoyed today's project, you should check out this video. And until the next time, remember, stay creative, everybody!